What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Fight HQ podcast as we're here to talk UFC Vegas number 80. Goes down 1 hour from now. You know, typically me and Pete are here on a Thursday, but I had some medical situations come up this week, so I was pretty much just laying in bed for a couple of days there, but we're back here to talk UFC Vegas 80. Of course, you got to get those lineups in. It starts here in 1 hour. Also, we got Bellator tonight. Not a ton of love over there. I mean, I was hoping maybe some prize picks and maybe put some plays up over there on Bellator. I haven't seen anything yet. We got a lot of big favorites over at Bellator, but we're here over the next hour to talk to you about what's going on tonight in combat sports. The first 30 minutes will be me and Pete breaking down the fights here for the UFC event. The last 30 minutes will be all about your questions, so start lining those questions right now up in the chat. Good afternoon, Pete. How's it going, man?
What's going on? What's up, everybody? Happy to be here. The break was much needed after that weird situation, the past card. But then outside of that, it was nice to get away. But now excited to be back, and thankfully we're still able to do live before lock, testing it out today, see how it's going to go. And if you're joining us right now, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in here. It's actually, someone mentioned you had some Bucks bye week, so it's a little bit of a kind of weekend off, but not really a weekend off in my world. When you're self-employed, there really is no such thing as a day off, and I know my guy Pete knows that very well. There is no such a day off when you're in the gym business.
No, not at all, man. And I'm exhausted. I've just been going crazy lately between working extra in addition to running the business. So I'm happy that we were able to squeeze this in. But yeah, this is like my therapy. I needed these fights.
Yeah, no, man. I'm looking forward to sit on the couch tonight. I mean, watching a little football, watching a little, it'll be a multiple screens. Guys, we'll probably have the UFC up on the main screen and some football action, and also have the iPad up. Got to pop over that Paramount Plus app so I can watch the Bellator fights tonight. I'll say this, just kind of quickly on that. I think this is favorite city tonight for the most part. I will tell you the one underdog I do like over Bellator, I like Henry Corrales on the preliminary card. He's plus 142. That line may have changed since I did my lines earlier this morning. The one favorite I really like on the prelims, and I think she should be a much bigger favorite than what she is, that would be Sara McMann at minus 148. If you're looking to attack maybe the Cyborg and Zingano fight, I think Cyborg is going to wreck 𝗵 Zingano tonight. I don't know if this thing lasts 3 minutes. I think it's going to be quick. So I think if you're trying to find anything over there, find a round one prop on Cyborg if you can find a decent number. I didn't even start looking in the round props. I know that's kind of your thing, Pete, looking at the round props, but I just think this is look. Bellator's been trying to make this fight for 2 years now. They finally got 𝗵 Zingano in this one. I don't think it's going to last very long.
Jason's not even giving Zingano 3 minutes. Goodness gracious. I think that Cyborg's just on a completely different level. And clearly you can bully 𝗵 Zingano. We've seen it happen. Clearly the best path for her is just wrestle early and often, but I think she's going to get beat up in the process. Cyborg's in a league of her own, especially in Bellator. So, I think that Henry Corrales has made us a lot of money, truthfully. I feel like he's consistently underrated, consistently, put in underdog positions, and we capitalize on it. And even if it's like pick'em pick'em odds, we've definitely been on the Corrales train for a little bit, and it's worked out pretty well for us. So I don't mind going back to that.
And Henry's a guy. He doesn't care who is standing across the cage from him. He does not care. He will take on anybody, anytime, anywhere. That's just his thing there. Appreciate the super chat over there. As from Liker. He says, can't wait to see Pete in the cage again. Yes, we'll see what there. And then goes, talks about, is there any way Bobby Green wins today? We'll talk about that here in a moment. The other two things on the Bellator, obviously, Aleem McFarland misses weight. Now, second straight fight. Liz Carmouche was supposed to defend her title. She's technically defending her title. She can lose, she can technically lose a title. They're longtime training partners. This might look like a sparring match. I believe I read it's only a 3-round fight now as opposed to a 5-round fight. If you're looking to bet it, I might look at that. Liz Carmouche wins via submission plus 350. Sticks out to maybe if you want to play it safe, just play plus 180. Usman Nurmagomedov. I love Brent Primus. Brent's my guy. I don't see how Brent gets it done. Usman Nurmagomedov is the real deal. I will tell you this right now, and we didn't get a chance to my other podcast this week, but we were going to do kind of a power ranking. If magically, hypothetically speaking, all the Bellator fighters became free agents, who would be the UFC's number one target? I think it's Usman Nurmagomedov.
Number one, you think it's Usman?
Dude's 24 years old.
Yeah.
I think he would wreck a lot of dudes in the top 10 in the UFC lightweight division right now. I don't think there would be many.
Number one?
Okay. Who else? I would tell you, here be the guys that'd be top of my list. Usman Nurmagomedov, AJ McKee, Aaron Pico, Yaroslav Amosov, and Vadim Nemkov. That'd be my top 5.
Yeah, I mean, the Pitbull, Patricio, but I know he's older now. But
bro, he's 36 years old. Okay.
Yeah, but
he's coming off the losses. He's coming off the losses
of all time.
But if you're management of the UFC, you got a chance to go get one of the best young lightweights who's only 24 years old, and you know the pedigree he's got.
Yeah.
By the way, Cain Velasquez will be.
Hot take.
And by the way, Cain Velasquez will be in the corner of Usman Nurmagomedov tonight.
Yeah, the kid's filthy. The kid's really good. I mean, it's definitely when you add youth and longevity into the equation, it clearly seems like they could grab one of the best prospects in the sport pretty early, which would be awesome for them if that does happen.
Yeah,
we'll see. But like the Bellator card, I'm interested. I'm probably not going to watch it, just because I'm going to prioritize our lineups on the UFC card. But dabble with some of the heavy favorite parlays.
Of course, we're just under 45 minutes before lock. Let's get right into the UFC card. Of course, main event, Grant Dawson taking on Bobby Green. Grant Dawson is a minus 450 betting favorite, plus 350 for Bobby Green. Bobby Green, 6,800 on DK, 9,400 for Grant Dawson over on DK. Over on FanDuel, you got Grant Dawson at $23, $14 for Bobby Green. And, Pete, when I'm not surprised by this betting lines. I pretty much figured that Grant Dawson was going to be a big favorite. I think, when you think of Bobby Green, I think a lot of times you think about a guy that overall has shown pretty good takedown defense. But then, when you start kind of taking that deep dive and you start looking at who he was facing, you looked at a lot of guys that are more striking based. And we have seen Grant Dawson since he left Missouri, went down to American Top Team. I think, one of the big flaws that we saw in Grant Dawson for a long time was cardio. And since he's made that trip down to American Top Team, we really haven't seen that. Now, look, he hasn't been in a 5-round fight, so we'll see if it's his 4th or 5. And like I was telling you before the show, like, as a cash game play or trying to save salary, if you think this thing can go 5 rounds, I don't mind getting the Bobby Green, even though I do like Grant Dawson to win the fight.
Yeah, I don't hate the Bobby Green cash call. I also don't hate Bobby Green, just from a value standpoint. But like for me, how I see this going is I foresee eventually Grant Dawson takes Bobby Green down. And what he is absolutely fantastic at is taking the back. And I wrote it down, and I'd like to see. So in each of his fights, and how he takes the back is a very interesting way of pressuring from side control to make his opponent slightly overcompensate and make a slight mistake, and then he takes the back from side control. It's very, very sneaky. So Grant Dawson took the back of Marco Madsen in 55 seconds. Against Jared Gordon in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 1 minute and 40 seconds against Damir Ismagulov, 2 minutes and 30 seconds against Rick Glenn, and 3 minutes and 40 seconds against Nad Narimani. So I went back and I watched those fights, and I kind of just made a point to how long it takes for him to get the back. Just trying to see about like if he can be optimal given that given his salary. And I think that once he gets Bobby Green down, you're going to see that same heavy side control half guard passes and eventually takes the back. And I do think that, within 2, maybe 3 rounds, he ends up submitting Bobby Green. So I think that he's a fantastic play. If this does remain on the feet and it's a kickboxing contest, then sure, Bobby Green should be able to compete, should be able to win. He's fantastic. But that's not how I'm predicting the fight to go. I'm predicting the fight to, hit the mat and Grant Dawson take his back and get the submission pretty early on. And I just wanted to touch on Liker. Thank you so much for the super chat. I wasn't ignoring you. I appreciate it. It is looking like January in my hometown at the Mohegan Sun Arena. I will be fighting for a promotion, so we're in talks. So trying to sneak a couple, like maybe one in between that, some grappling tournaments. And then that'll be a nice return. Hometown in the arena where I've fought 10, 20 times. You know what I mean? I fought so much between my amateur and professional career there. So I'm excited for that. But obviously, we're here to break down the fights, and I like Grant Dawson a lot.
Yeah, mentioning about Bobby Green, and I mean, look, when you think of Grant Dawson, you think about the ability to take down, and you talk about the ability to get the back. When you look at some of the most recent fights for Bobby Green: Tony Ferguson, Jared Gordon, Drew Dober, Islam Makhachev, Nasrat Haqparast, 𝐿𝐈 𝗵𝐵, Thiago Moses, Alan Patrick, Vlado Veneta, Clay Guida. That goes back to 2020. Now, a lot of those fighters in that equation are necessarily fighters that aren't necessarily looking to get to the ground. We saw what Islam did to him, took him down immediately. Of course, that was a fight that Bobby stepped up on such short notice. Like, I don't mind getting the Bobby Green in this one, but it's more of a cash game, maybe in a captain contest where I'm hoping that it goes 5 rounds. If this thing's over in 2 rounds, yeah, it's a dud for Bobby Green. Of course, now the co-main event, we got Joe Pyfer taking on Alhassan. Alhassan is a plus 310 betting underdog, minus 400 for Joe Pyfer. Pyfer is 9,300 on DK, 21 on FanDuel. And for Alhassan, he is 6,900 on DK and $12 on FanDuel. Pete, I do not like this fight for Alhassan moving up to 85. I love Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer is a core play for me. So if he doesn't go out there and give me 100 points, my lineups are probably screwed.
Yeah, I like Joe a lot here. I think that from a frame standpoint, he's at a significant advantage. He's a big guy. Seems like he cuts a good amount of weight to make this weight class. And Alhassan, I do think that from a frame wise, will be a slightly undersized in this middleweight contest. At 6,900, he probably has the best bottom end GPP upside of some of these underdogs. Because if he wins, it's landing a big shot and knocking out his opponent. We have seen Joe Pyfer look like, very, very talented fighter. Didn't take much time to get rid of Alen Amedovski in 3 minutes and 55 seconds. Really starched Gerald Meerschaert, and I thought that was much more impressive than Alen Amedovski, and that was in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Kind of took the will right out of Gerald Meerschaert. So I think that Abdul's strategy here needs to be avoid the big shot of Joe Pyfer. Get some respect early, try to hurt Pyfer early. The thing is, though, we've seen Alhassan kind of go to his wrestling at times, but he's going to get out wrestled if that happens in this situation. So perhaps we see Joe Pyfer get hit with a shot and then wants to take a much more safer approach. And he has so much respect for Abdul Razak Alhassan. So take the path of least resistance and just work on your wrestling. I think that he could break the slate with his wrestling. He could also break the slate with his quick win bonus too. The only thing, I have seen some patience within his game, and I remember rostering him when he fought Alen Amedovski, and he was 9,700, and it took him 3 minutes and 55 seconds. He threw 45 significant strikes, landed 14, and got the knockout, but scored 105, and it almost went into the second round. And that's Alen Amedovski. So if this isn't an exciting barn burner out the gate, you could just have a second round or third round finish for Joe Pyfer. So I like him. I think he's a very strong candidate to win the fight. It just comes down to salary, and it comes down to score, right? And it's really hard to predict the score. But in some of my lineups, I am predicting that he's going to get a second round finish, not a first round finish. So it's making me kind of pivot to other plays up and down, beside his salary range.
No, I totally get you. I mean, I just don't like Alhassan at 85. I think he's much better at 70. But we all know he does have dynamic power in his hands. But I really do like Joe Pyfer in this one. Then we got Joaquin Buckley taking on Alex Morono. Joaquin Buckley is a minus 170 betting favorite. Morono plus 145. Buckley 8,700 on DK, $18 on FanDuel. Morono 7,500 on DK at $12 on FanDuel. And Pete, this is one of those cards where I truly do find it hard to find some underdogs I really like. There are a couple dogs I do like on this card, but Alex Morono, I don't mind getting there, but I do think Buckley's going to get it done here.
Yeah, I mean, I think earlier in the week I texted you and I was just like, what the hell am I going to do with underdogs this week? And I can make a case for a few of them to win a decision. And Alex Morono is one of those guys where he is a talented striker. He's solid jiu-jitsu practitioner, solid in the wrestling department. And he's pretty well-rounded. If you don't push a pace against him, he can win rounds, or the rounds can be super competitive. So I don't hate going to Alex Morono at 7,500. It's a value just given his experience. He's 12-5-1. We have seen, though, like he's winning fights and then he gets clipped with a big shot, like the Santiago Ponzinibbio fight in the 3rd round, 12 minutes and 29 seconds into the fight. Like he was winning the fight, and then just like Ponzinibbio found the chin, landed a nice combination, and it was it. Chaos Williams knocked him out, but Chaos has crazy power. We've also seen like Nico Price, which was overturned. So like I do think that the knockout can be had for Buckley here. And at 8,700, he's kind of in that price range where if people are playing high and low, he might be going lost in the shuffle a little bit. And I do like Joaquin Buckley to win the fight. I know from experience in judo too that like Joaquin Buckley was known for his wrestling in Bellator, and coming up. Like he was known for mixing things up really well. He showcased that in the past. You know, he has a split decision over Abdul Razak Al Hassan where he scored 80. He went 5 of 8 in the takedown department. And then in addition to that, like you know that he can pick up knockdowns. He has a ton of knockdowns. I mean, once against 𝗵𝗂𝐿𝐼 𝗙𝗂𝗄, that crazy kick, 2 against Jordan Wright. You know, you have the Antonio Hoyo fight, the Albert Duraev fight, the Andre Fiallo. So, like, I'm going to be picking Joaquin Buckley here. I think that, you know, in some of my lineups, because of the pace of Pyfer, I'm pivoting slightly above and below. And Joaquin Buckley is a guy that I'm landing on a lot, you know, given the price tag and given the high finish upside that he has. So, I think that he's very, very powerful and athletic, and I think a big left hand's going to land on Morono, and he's going to get knocked out.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those ones that I think from the betting side, I don't mind a little sprinkle on Buckley to win via decision, just because I could see, you know, just the toughness there. But, you know, I do like Buckley's side in this one. Then we got Drew Dober taking on Ricky Glenn. Drew Dober is a minus 450 betting favorite. Glenn plus 350. Dober is 9,500 DK, $22 on FanDuel. Ricky Glenn, 6,700 DK, $8 on FanDuel. You know, one of the things about Ricky is, you know, he hasn't been active over the past couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's an interesting fight, and I definitely think that the route to play is that somebody's getting knocked out, and you have chin concerns on both sides. You have Drew Dober, who has been, you know, mostly durable throughout his career, but with that durability and his toughness, that means that he's been hurt a lot in a lot of his fights, taking a ton of damage. It's just that the Matt Frivola strikes were too much to take, and then he was knocked out. So that was, you know, back in May. And then you have Rick Glenn getting completely starched against Christos Giagos, who's not a, you know, he's a really hot out the gate fighter, puts a tremendous pace early and caught him cold in 1 minute and 35 seconds in. So, and that was back in April. So you have 2 fighters coming off of knockouts, knockout defeats. Perhaps you get, you know, slightly gun shy and hesitant fighters, right? Like that's just something to kind of think about as a coach in their ear. Let's make less mistakes and let's snipe more. Let's not get into a brawl. You saw what happened last time. And I'm just saying that, you know, Drew Dober should knock out Rick Glenn. If Rick Glenn got knocked out by Christos Giagos, I think Drew Dober hits ridiculously hard for this division. He has great in and out movement. He pulls his opponents into range. He steps into range, out of range. Big left hand. I think he's going to knock out Rick Glenn. It's just at that price point, the 9,500, does it happen in the first round? Or does he kind of take his time, pick him apart a little bit? Rick Glenn early on at trying to initiate the grappling. Next thing you know, 5 minutes expires and we're into the 2nd and 3rd round. Yeah, I think Dober wins this fight. He's a great money line play despite the crazy odds. I don't like any time odds get above minus 300, right? Mm-hmm. It's a fight at the end of the day. You know, but like how Rick Glenn looked so aged in the Christos Giagos fight and how he got finished so quickly, it makes sense to a point. But like Dober is coming off a knockout as well. So it's Dober, 9,500, very good play. It's just the score situation. Sometimes we get KOs and we get TKOs and they don't pick up a knockdown. You know, they get hurt against the cage. Like strange things happen like that. But yeah. That's exactly what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Dober. And we live before lock, we got a lot of people in here right now, Jason. We got like 120 people. We appreciate it. If you guys hit that thumbs up, get us over 100 likes, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything we do. Happy to be here, and let's go. Let's keep it rolling.
Of course, also, we got the DraftKings contest that's going on. The link to that DraftKings contest is in the description below. Of course, also, our Discord channel, totally free to join. Great community that I have there talking about the fight game. So be sure to check that out. As Pete said, we appreciate everyone that's in here watching this one. Next up, we got a matchup that I know in the Discord channel has kind of been really a big talking point, and that is Alexander Hernandez and 𝗵𝐴lgeo. 𝗵𝐴lgeo, a plus 100 betting underdog. He was a favorite at one point. Minus 120 for Hernandez. Hernandez is 1,700 on DK, 15 on FanDuel. Algeo 8,400 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. And Pete, as me and you were just kind of chit-chatting before the show, you brought up the great point about Alexander Hernandez, and there's always going to be this concern with Alex is if the fight hits the third round, what's kind of going to be left in the tank?
Yeah, and it's also the weight cut, right? Like, I don't necessarily like him here at featherweight. I know that he thinks it's an optimal weight class for him. I do think that he's probably made some adjustments, but the featherweight decision was clearly exposed against Billy Quarantillo, where like his cardio just drops off a cliff. In addition to his cardio, I kind of see like him checking out of some of his fights, right? Like when the going gets tough, not saying that he's a quitter, but like when that door is shown, sometimes he opens that door and takes that door. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like he's okay with just getting out of there when the pace is pushed and he's met with resistance. And I do think that clearly the easiest way to beat 𝗵𝐴lgeo is take him down and just blanket him. And if there's a fighter on this card that has potential, it's Alexander Hernandez. When he was coming into the UFC, I thought this kid was going to be just a BJJ wrestling blanket type of fighter. He landed 4 of 10 takedowns and beat Olivier Aubin-Mercier. That win has aged significantly well. That was back in July of 2018. See what OAM has done since then. I just think like out wrestling a guy like that, it means a lot. And he had 7 minutes of control time somewhere along the way. And I think that it was the Cowboy Cerrone fight. It's like it changed him, because after that OAM fight, Cowboy TKO'd him in the second round. And that's when we started to see when the going gets tough, sometimes you can get him out of there. And 𝗵𝐴lgeo is a pace pusher, great pace, good volume, suspect takedown the fence, but will scramble, has good jiu-jitsu. But like he's been in some fights with some gassers as well, and he's done quite well. TJ Brown's a guy that has the same some similarities to Alexander Hernandez, was able to pick up a second round win. Herbert Burns, same thing, second round win. And Joanderson Brito win, like that means a lot as well, scoring 88. So 88, 106, and 116 in those matches that I've said. The current line movement and the money coming in on Alexander Hernandez, I'm a little skeptical about. I think that he's probably one of the best fighters under 8,000 to win a decision. I don't think he's going to finish 𝗵𝐴lgeo. 𝗵𝐴lgeo has tremendous finishing upside in this matchup. I'm still siding with 𝗵𝐴lgeo until Alexander Hernandez shows me at featherweight that he can go 15 minutes and not break under the pressure. He did only score 79 fantasy points against Jim Miller, and it was a tremendous fight. But I just think that 𝗵𝐴lgeo is going to have his number here at 8,400.
I'm kind of on the Alex Hernandez side of this equation.
Yeah.
I do, look, we always talk about we love the back gyms, and I'm always, Factory X is one of those gyms I want to back. And for the people who don't know, Alex is actually one of now the coaches at Factory X. He moved the Factory X probably around 20. It was either end of 2020 or beginning of 2021 when he went out there. So he's actually one of those underdogs I am targeting this week. But I do understand there's potential issues there. Next up, we got Ian Cutelaba taking on Philippe Lins. Cutelaba plus 115, minus 135 for Philippe Lins. Cutelaba is 8,300 on DK. Philippe Lins is 7,900 and 17-14 respectively over there on FanDuel. I will tell you, one of my favorite plays over on Prize Picks today is actually going more than 6 minutes on the fight time for Ian Cutelaba. I think this thing is going to hit the third round. The one thing is, obviously we know Cutelaba, what he can do with his hand speed, but one thing I look at Philippe Lins is as I picture this fight, I just see Philippe Lins putting Cutelaba up against the fence, and then he's just going to kind of grind away at him.
I think Jason's nuts, but credit to him. I mean, like that's that's like playing with fire, but I can see what he's saying about like over the course of 15 minutes, a guy out of American Top Team just out grinding 𝗕𝗂𝘆 𝗙𝗶𝗵𝗵𝐵, who's been absolutely untrustworthy. I could see it. But if you go back and you look at Philippe Lien's early career and even not just a couple of years back, you've seen that like if somebody goes out there, I think it was Jared Rosholt and PFL. Granted, that's some time ago, but like he can get taken down, and then he can get taken down and ground and pounded. And also like in his career, his durability's constantly been in question as well. So like I don't trust 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵. I don't trust Philippe Lien's. I will say that like 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵's fast start could throw Philippe Lien's completely off guard. I mean, Maxim Grishin, old vet. OSP completely washed. Marcin Prachnio, terrible. It's just like I think that a guy in 𝗕𝗂𝘆 𝗙𝗶𝗵𝗵, and this is kind of like where I'm not trying to use it only in certain situations, but like I do really like Extreme Couture, and he's always training at Extreme Couture, and I know that like that gym's on the up and tremendous training partners out there. Saw what he did to Tanner Boser. He can get takedowns. He can just go out there and hurt Philippe Lien's, put him against the cage. Philippe Lien's can defend some, but I don't know if he's going to respond well to some of the ground and pound. So both guys have been finished a lot in their career. But yeah, I'm going to go with 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵. I think that there's some crazy upside for his score. And Philippe Lien's going to have to overcome some adversity in order to win here. He can definitely do it. I hate going against American Top Team, and I usually don't, but I think that 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵 at 8,300 is both of them, 83 and 79. I think it's a fight that you need. And I'm going to be going with 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵. It's a young guy. He's a young guy. And despite having all this experience, I think that we still haven't seen the best of him.
He's a wild man. Like you mentioned, like, look, do you trust 𝗕𝗂𝘆 𝗙𝗶𝗵𝗵? I mean, look, I understand you think anyone is in the chat says 𝗙𝗶𝗵𝗵 is going to win by knockout. My response is, but do you trust him? I don't. And look, I'm not saying I trust Philippe Lien's a lot, but I would say this: I like Philippe Lien's more 205 pounds than I like them at heavyweight. It's one of those things of, and it's trying to find these under 8,000 options this week to kind of develop a lineup that I want to develop. And so Philippe Lien's and Alex Hernandez tend to be two guys I tend to find myself leaning on there. Next up, we got a female matchup: 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵𝗁 taking on 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏. 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 is a plus 122 betting underdog, minus 145 for 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵𝗁. 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵𝗁 8,600 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏, she's 7,600 on DK and $13 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I think this is going to be an underdog shot for me. And initially it was just like 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗵𝗁 was going to get rid of this girl. But then I started watching some tape, and listen, I understand what I'm saying right here. And even in a loss, I think that Diana 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 can do well, as long as it's a kickboxing fight. If Karolina Kowalkiewicz goes out there and starts to wrestle, I think she can make this fight very, very easy. We have seen her go to the wrestling in some previous fights. She went 2 of 2 in the takedown department against Silvana Gomez-Juarez. I think that Diana 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏, if she gets put on her back, she's going to lose this fight. But on the feet, 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 keeps her chin down. She throws pretty loopy right hands, has a sneaky good left hook, and like Karolina Kowalkiewicz swims with her punches. She kind of keeps her chin up in the air. She throws good volume, but with that volume, she's there to be hit. She's there waiting for her receipt. And guess what? Like, she does not exit correctly. And Diana 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 shells up and throws counter shots. I can see 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 hurting Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I really can, because I saw Vanessa Demopoulos hurt Karolina Kowalkiewicz with a left hook. And I think that Diana 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 hits a lot harder, is more aggressive, and definitely can match the volume of Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I've been hating on Vanessa Demopoulos' striking for years. You know that, ever since Dana White's Contender Series and all that stuff. Like, I've been hating on Demopoulos' striking, and she's been a punching bag at times. So like, scoring 90 against her doesn't really impress me that much. Kowalkiewicz at one time was on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight losing streak. Granted, it's against top tier competition that Diana 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 has never even graced the octagon with. But I'm just saying, Father Time's undefeated, and fighters are fighting for different reasons. And I think that 𝗵𝐵𝗂𝗏 is probably hungrier than 𝘃𝐬𝐬𝐽𝐻 at this point. So give me Diana to win a decision. I understand if you hate it, but I in order to construct my lineups, I have to pick one underdog at least. So I'm going to go with the in women's MMA, which is a volatile division.
Mm-hmm.
And going to go with Diana Belbita at 7,600 to squeak out a decision over 𝘃𝐬𝐬𝐽𝐻.
Now, if anyone has listened to Pete over the past couple of years, we all know he is the president of the Nate Maness fan club.
It's pretty sad is when I almost like picked him this week because the underdogs are that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, you guys know me. I'm not a Nate Maness guy at all. Not a Nate Maness guy at all. Here's the problem. He ain't that good. But sometimes he's facing gassers and he's facing people who just like overexert themselves. The Tony Gravely fight's the most frustrating thing because I thought Gravely was going to destroy him. And he looked like he was on his way to. And then like an uppercut in the second round after nearly getting knocked out in the first landed. And he picked up the win. That's fighting. That is fighting. That's why I tell you I hate anything above -300 because it's fighting at the end of the day. It's very difficult to remain perfect for 15 minutes, and you don't know everything that's going on leading up to a fight. This fight where he's 7,200 against Matheus Mendonca at 9,000, a prospect in the division who debuted against Javid Basharat. Very, very tough debut. It's one where I can see Manus scoring well even in a loss. I really can. So I don't hate the bottom of the barrel Nate Maness underdog card, underdog call. Mendonca, very, very explosive, powerful striking, good jiu-jitsu. And I do think that he can pick up some takedowns, but like Nate Maness is pretty good at getting underhooks. We saw Mendonca attempt 11 takedowns against Javid Basharat. So that's a lot. Like that's a ton of exertion. So 2 of 11 in the takedown department, not good efficiency, but I think this is going to be a closer fight than what the odds suggest. I like Mendonca to win the fight still because guys know I don't think Nate Maness is good, but for whatever reason he makes fights competitive. He went 15 minutes with Umar Nurmagomedov without getting finished, but yet got finished in the first round against 𝗕𝗓𝗄 𝗙𝗏𝗏 2 minutes in. So fighting makes no sense half the time. But yeah, I'm picking Matheus Mendonca to win the fight.
MMA math does not always work out. I mean, how many times have we seen something where, hey, this guy's beat this guy, then and it's like, yeah, MMA math don't work. I mean, it just doesn't.
How do you go 15 minutes with Umar Nurmagomedov and then like get starched in 2 minutes against 𝗕𝗓𝗄 𝗙𝗏𝗏? It makes no sense at all. But that's why like in these weight classes that I like to target, you guys know, main event, co-main event, women's MMA, and flyweights. Those are the underdog and heavyweight MMA. So like those 5 are the types where I like to target underdogs. So Nate Maness is kind of just on the outside of my underdog pool, but I would get some exposure if I'm playing 150, 100%.
Dan Jackson just put in the chat, if armbar from guard plays today, well, this just came in right at the right time because to me, and I literally said this to Pete right before the show, I said, Vanessa Demopoulos, armbar from guard has to be live.
Yeah, it is, especially a girl who got her arm snatched by Virna Jandiroba, right? And thought it was her elbow, it was her shoulder. Who knows? It could have been a combination. But Kanako Marata was in a very, very bad situation with an exceptional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner in Virna Jandiroba. So you can't really hate on that too much, but unable to continue. So she has a TKO loss. Like Kanako Marata is nasty in the wrestling department. Very, very good. She went 4 of 9 in the takedown department against Randa Marcos. I'm a fan of Randa. I like Randa a lot, but like we haven't seen Randa look all that great. And that was back in 2020. So the Virna Jandiroba from Randa Marcos was a significant step up in competition. Some unknown surrounding Kanako Marata training back home. How does she look, with this layoff from last June 2021, actually 2 years ago now. So how's she going to look here? Is she going to look better? Is she going to look worse? Vanessa Demopoulos has been in the octagon and has been acclimated, been pretty active since 2021. JJ Aldrich, Silvana Gomez-Juarez, Jinyu Frey, Maria Oliveira, and Kārolīna Kōvalkiewicz. So I do think that in each fight you are going to level up I just still think that it's pretty easy for Kanako Marata to get takedowns and just remain in top position. Don't leave your arm out there to get armbarred again. And sometimes, like, you see it. And I'm trying to think of the fighter, Jessica Rose Clark. I think she got armbarred by I forget who she got armbarred by. And then, she went up against Yulia Stoliarenko. And it's like, oh, well, I hope she's been practicing her armbar defense. She's not going to get armbarred twice. And sure enough, I liked her to beat Jessica Rose Clark there. And you saw what happened. So, like, maybe Kanako Marata hasn't made some adjustments and she gets armbarred from guard by Vanessa Demopoulos. But as far as the MMA fight, I think that Kanako Marata picks up a pretty easy decision win here. It's just, does she score well at that price tag?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Then we got 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang taking on Johnny Munoz. This is, by the way, our first two fights tonight are both A200, 8,000 fights. 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang is A200, Munoz 8,000. 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang $16 on FanDuel, $15 for Munoz. Essentially a pick 'em fight on the betting odds, -105 for 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang, -115 for Johnny Munoz, Pete.
Can you believe they're doing it to me twice this week? 8,000, 8,200. They're giving me two of them. They just know I hate these salaries so much. I can make a case for both. And sometimes, like, initial reads on fights compared to fight film, they are the same, and sometimes they are completely different. I will tell you, knee-jerk reaction, I was picking Johnny Munoz because I just think of his grappling and what he can do. I've seen him go out there and attempt tons of takedowns in the past. He went 2 of 16, Nate Manus. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, if he attempts that against 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang, we've seen him get taken down by Jay Perrin, so perhaps he can get 5 of them. Yeah, he could. But even though, like, we see that, judges are weighing damage a lot more than control time, and I thought, like, what my perception of Johnny Munoz was, he's really fallen from grace. And the previous fight against Daniel Santos was terrible. It was horrendous. It was so bad that I don't think I can back Johnny Munoz. I just don't think I can. He leaves himself so open. I'm pretty surprised Daniel Santos did not knock him out in that fight, because I saw so many openings for hooks, straight right hands down the middle. And if there's one thing 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang does really well, is he hits pretty damn hard for the division. Despite coming off a KO defeat to Aiemann Zahabi, I actually think we can see 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang pick up a knockout here. Yeah, I really do, because, Johnny Munoz clearly needs to grapple and he needs to work on getting a submission. But, like, 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang being a part of Fight Ready and just constantly being around that wrestling scene, I think he's going to make Johnny Munoz have some inefficient attempts, and then I think 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang can make him pay. And even if he doesn't, he throws with tremendous volume that he could do enough in a decision at 8,200 to win. So it's a surprise to me, and probably a surprise to you guys, but I'm going to go with 𝗕𝐬𝐺 Lang here at 8,200 to hurt Johnny Munoz and knock him out, despite the fact that Daniel Santos was unable to do so.
Then, of course, our first fight of the night, a female matchup. We got Montana De La Rosa taking on JJ Aldrich. De La Rosa -150 betting favorite, +125 for Aldrich. A200 for De La Rosa, 8,000 for Aldrich, $16 for De La Rosa, and $15 for JJ. Pete?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird this week, but, like, I think Montana De La Rosa destroys JJ Aldrich. I have really, like, another fighter, JJ Aldrich, recently, similar to Johnny Munoz, just has looked like shit. She's looked bad. She's looked so bad. Like, granted, it's Erin Blanchfield, Ariane Lipski, Na Liang, like, some tough fighters, but, like, ever since that Ariane Lipski fight, and, like, throughout her entire career, split decisions. She's doing just enough. She's not a high volume fighter. She never picked up a finish until the most recent fight against Na Liang, who is, if you can't pick up a finish over her, then I don't know if you're ever going to find a finish, because, like, that girl makes ridiculous amounts of mistakes. She's so wild and volatile. She fights like an amateur, as I was saying leading up into that fight. So I said, JJ Aldrich is going to get a finish here. And if she doesn't, she's never getting one in her career in the UFC. And, like, she was able to do it, but, like, 𝗓𝗓 headlocked her like 5 times, put her in some bad spots, took JJ Aldrich's back. Like 𝗓𝗓 took her back, and then like just got too excited because she fights reckless and got, shaken off. And then we saw JJ just kind of turn the tide and pick up a finish. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm crazy this week, but I think that Montana De La Rosa throwing good strikes, good combinations, and being a very, very talented wrestler and grappler, if she takes down JJ Aldrich and gets the back, I don't think she makes a mistake. I think she finishes JJ Aldrich here. Even if she doesn't, I think she's wise enough to avoid making mistakes and wins a dominant decision. So, I mean, unless you just like a low volume fighter who does enough and possibly can defend takedowns, I don't know why you'd pick JJ Aldrich to win the fight. I think that Montana De La Rosa has all the upside in the world, and it's the first fight of the night. So, yeah, I'm going to be going with Montana De La Rosa here at 8,200.
Of course, we appreciate everyone tuning in here to the Fight HQ podcast. We're talking UFC Vegas 80. Of course, if you got any questions about the fights or any questions about Bellator 300, line those up in the chat. We're going to get into those right now. Straight up fight picks, man. I'm going to tell you, I got a lot of favorites here. I'm going to go Grant Dawson in the main event.
Grant Dawson.
I go Joe Pyfer.
Joe Pyfer for me.
Buckley.
Dober.
Technically, if underdog on DraftKings, but I'll go Alexander Hernandez, but he's betting favorite.
That's crazy. I'm going Bill Algeo.
Give me Philippe Lins.
It's crazy how like line movement, like that's like significant line movement.
Yeah.
Like somebody like is going into a fight with a broken leg. I'm going 𝗕𝗂𝗆𝗆𝗵𝗁.
I'll go underdog number 1, 𝗵𝐵𝗵𝗄.
Oh yeah, Jason. I'm going 𝗵𝐵𝗵𝗄 as well.
Matthias.
Yeah, Mendonca for me. Don't do it to yourself. Are you gonna do it?
No, I'm not. Marata.
Okay.
I wanted to say. The problem is, I just hate Vanessa on the feet. I mean, she's done some work at Factory X. There's more of a story.
She's not there anymore. You notice that?
Yeah. It's kind of weird. I
don't like gym hoppers, so I'm definitely going Kanako Marata.
I will tell you the reason she left Fight Ready was a management issue. Management and Fight Ready issue. I
hate how that's like becoming a thing now. Like management and teams, like that's such a stupid little problem.
I'll go 𝗕𝐂𝐆𝗆 𝗍.
Oh yeah, Jason. 𝗕𝐂𝐆𝐿 𝗍.
And I'll go De La Rosa.
De La Rosa. Both 8,200 fighters for me this week. And you know my track record for that fight. So you might want to fade it unless for some reason I woke up and I'm correct for once on those salaries.
So we got about 18 minutes here left to show before we get to the lock. Get as many questions as we can. Appreciate the super chats. Jorge, appreciate it, man. He goes, am I crazy by getting on optimizers almost 100% of Dawson on 150 lineups? Thoughts on Dawson exposure, and thanks in advance for all the info provided. I would not go 100% in 150 just because of I do want to get a little different. Also, like, there's this part of me that says, like, ego is a son of a bitch in MMA.
Yeah.
And if he sits there and stands with Bobby Green, like, that's Bobby Green's best chance to win this fight.
I'll tell you, I've done a lot of dumber shit than that. So, like, I've done like 150 Evan Dunham lineups in the past. So remember that. So, like, I don't hate it. It's the main event. It's 5 rounds. DraftKings scoring system favors grapplers. He can rack. If it's 25 minutes, he's going to break the slate. Let's say he goes out there and wins in 25 minutes. He's going to break the slate. So, like, you could set yourself up for success really well. If it's a second, third, or even a first round finish, that's where the conversation is, was he necessary? Yeah. And like, it comes at a cost. And his salary it's not crazy. It's 9,400. But like on a week like this where we're not in love with a lot of underdogs, every dollar counts. Every dollar counts. So I don't know if I'd go 150. It's probably a safe win. I would recommend not doing that, but I don't hate it, if that helps.
Scott brings up the point. He says, I'm on Aldrich for being contrarian. Yeah, I mean, you look at the ownership projections on JJ, totally get that. I mean, and that's one of the things is I'm developing lineups. That's always the thing I'm looking at is, okay, who are the fighters? It's A, who are the fighters under 20% ownership? And then B, it's what fights are getting the least amount of ownership. And unfortunately, the fights this week are the female matchups. I mean, Marata, Demopoulos would be a contrarian type play if you want to get to that one and maybe get away from some of the other bigger ownership. But there's not a ton of, maybe a Algeo is another contrarian play just because of what we're seeing on ownership.
What the hell am I seeing with ownership? I was just scrolling. Do you see like these big numbers on some of these guys?
Oh yeah.
I am very, very surprised. Like very surprised. The Alexander Hernandez ownership blows my mind.
So when I was putting
That's
together
all line movement, that has to be all line movement decision.
Yeah. When I was putting my lineups together, and I put my captain contest together, and I don't, on the captain contest, I'm more of a single bullet type of entry. Like I try to stay away from Dawson and go some other ways just because I think that he's going to be a very popular play over there. I'm just kind of looking at the updated ownership here. Yeah,
bro, it's crazy.
That Hernandez ownership, yeah, that's kind of crazy.
That's what I'm saying, Jason. I've sat there and I think like my face said it all. Like it's just like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking at the updated and the stuff that under 20% just doesn't. Algeo may be that contrarian play today. That may be when you're looking under 25%. He may be that guy I want to get to more than anybody else.
He is that guy. That's that and Philippe Leans, right? Like that's got to be where you're thinking. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of basically what we were saying in general with the fight. But like, I almost want to pivot off of that crazy underdog ownership. That's freaking nuts.
Yeah.
Think about it. He has almost as much ownership as 𝗕𝗂𝗵𝗵𝗵. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. By the way, for people who don't like watch college football, Oklahoma just took the lead with like 10 seconds to go in the game.
Well, who are they playing?
Texas. The big rivalry game down there. It's at the Texas State Fair. I know you're not a college football guy.
But you'd be proud, bro. I've actually started to watch it.
Yeah, because you're making some wagers. That's why.
Of course.
Yeah, 15 seconds left. Oklahoma just.
I think Florida State won me something a couple weeks ago or a week ago. I don't remember.
That's when I leave the studio here. FSU's playing right now. I'll be heading to watch the game. Let's go down and get some more of these questions as much as we can here.
It's an awesome show. This is fun.
Leans or 𝗕𝗂𝗆𝗆. I feel like we need this fight. I don't know if I would say you need the fight. I think if you're on the 𝗕𝗂𝗆𝗆 side, I understand that thought process, but I just think Leans potentially just tries to grind him out against the fence. That's where I'm at least.
Yeah, I'm different than you, man. I don't unless that Mako wrestling is just like super overpowering. I just feel like 𝗕𝗂𝗆𝗆 is the better grappler here.
Let's see here.
I hope. I have like a crazy feeling I'm taking this damn tournament down today. And
do it, man.
The main one, and finally the Fight HQ contest. I keep getting my ass kicked in.
Yeah. Let's see here. And I'll get over to score questions here in a moment as well. I want to get those questions because I know there was a bunch of stuff in there. We just want to kind of get over maybe some things we haven't talked about here.
Let's talk about some.
Is the main event a priority this week?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Yeah, it's funny, and Pete Warner in chat brings up how New England doesn't care about college football. As someone who gets to travel during football season,
yeah,
college football in the South and college football in the North are two different things.
Yeah, nobody cares up here.
Oh yeah, literally, you go out any bar here in Tampa, St. Pete area, it's all packed people watching college football today. Do want to get? I know there were some questions I want to get from the Score channel. If I don't get your question and I maybe missed it, if you fire back at me in the Score, that would help out as well.
𝗷𝐢𝐧 Lang via KO plus 240. Interesting.
Someone in our chat mentioned that they saw James Krause at their local deli.
No, they didn't.
That's been a story that's been very, very quiet. Very quiet.
He ruined a lot for himself, and no matter what he did, I always feel bad for people. You know what I mean? But like he made a decision. Yeah. It's just like everything from here is ruined.
2v2 situation here. Buckley and Dawson or Dober and 𝗕𝗂𝗆.
Ooh, great 2v2. Good question. Say that again.
Joaquin Buckley and Grant Dawson or Drew Dober and Ian 𝗕𝗂𝗆.
Second one has more finishing upside, in my opinion. Wow, no, shit, because I think Dawson's getting a sub, too. But I just feel like... First one's safer with Buckley
That's what I was thinking
and
too.
Dawson. Second one has higher chance of first-round KO finishes, and we like the knockdown upside attached to KO artists. So that's how I view it. I would lean to the second one, but the first one's definitely safer.
Is it okay to fade Dawson at 3 max? Personally, I would not.
And the 3 max, no, I wouldn't fade. I'd probably put him in at least one.
Let's see here. Best leverage play. I think it's Algeo right now based on what we're seeing on ownership.
Yeah, my man, it is Algeo. And outside of that, it's got to be Aldrich.
Yeah. Best takedown upside. I think Grant Dawson's the easy answer.
Yeah, Dawson. Sneaky one, 𝗙𝗵. Third one. Montana de la Rosa.
Yeah. Ranking the 9K options. So we've got 4 9K options this week. I think you still have to go Dawson number 1, Pete, just because of that takedown upside and then DraftKings scoring system. Then I think 2, 3, whether you go Dober, 𝗙𝗵, or 𝗙𝗵 Dober, that's 2, 3. And then Matthias, I think, is 4.
I'm going to go. I think you're right, man. Dawson, 𝗙𝗵, Dober, Mendonca. That's hard. I'm okay with pivoting off of some of these 9,000 options too. Just staying in the mid-range.
Value plays under 8K on DK, cheapies on FanDuel. I mean, looking at value plays over on DraftKings, I mean, I think there's a Alex Morono I would put in that mix. I like Philippe Lins, 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵, which both of us have talked about there. Demopoulos, armbar from guards live, but man, you're taking a chance there, but do like the low ownership on her. That's all that sticks out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Lins, 𝗕𝗂𝗆𝗵, clearly GPP fight. Hernandez and Morono are like tied to win a decision in my eyes. I think that 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵 is probably my favorite underdog of the remaining. Outside of that, just dart throws, contrarian picks, just some weird shit to happen in an MMA fight. Like whenever there's fouls and people get DQ'd or people can't continue, it ruins the slate. I don't, there's no alternative. But that's what you should also account for if you're playing a 150 max, because you just never know.
GP's on FanDuel. I think 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵 is the one that sticks out to me the most.
What's the price on FanDuel?
She is $13.
That's not bad.
Yeah. But yeah, if you got any questions and you're in a score, fire those away. I got right here in front of me. Go over to YouTube chat. It says best fight to combo both fighters besides the main event. I mean, look,
Stack?
that's the way I would take the question. I don't like stacking 3-round fights. That's just not my thing.
If I stacked anything, what would I stack? If I stacked anything, I don't recommend this, but I'd probably stack the Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Diana 𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗵, just in hopes it's a 15-minute, 300 punch kickboxing affair. You know what I mean? But that's really it.
Yeah. Thoughts on fading all 9K to DraftKings GPP? Great way to get different.
That's what I'm doing in my big lineup. So we'll see if I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, but overall, it's one of these DFS cards that I really don't love, just because I don't think there's a lot of great options. I would say over on Prize Picks, my 3 top plays, I haven't looked to see how much the numbers have changed. I like the more than 36.5 significant strikes on Joaquin Buckley. I like the more 12.5 fight time minutes on Algeo, and the more 6 fight time minutes on Ian 𝗕𝗂𝗆. Other things that do stick out to me.
You're gonna
over
sweat
there.
that.
𝗕𝘂𝘆 the 12.5 fight time minutes is one that kind of thinking more, but could see that going either way. Just because I do like Montel De La Rosa, I like the under 68.5 fantasy score on JJ Aldrich.
Yeah, I mean, Jason's the prize picks king over there.
Yeah, and I will tell you, it should still be active. I saw a little earlier today. Prize Picks was running a special on Carson Beck, the Georgia quarterback. I want to say they were putting at 230 passing yards. I think it was like a 14% discount. So that's one of those things on Prize Picks. You got to kind of look at the other sports, and because typically in MMA I like to do 2 or 3 player cards, but maybe if I can find something in another sport where Prize Picks give you a little bit of a discount, maybe you can add yourself a little bit there.
Damn it. That's what I forgot to do today. I've just been working so much. I wanted to make a trip so I could go play Prize Picks. And
Carson Beck is they've got a 14% discount, 230.5 passing yards as they're playing Kentucky. That is the 7:00 game tonight. That's always some of the things I like to just look on Prize Picks to see what they have. If there's anything out there, maybe if you want to tie it into any other sport that's constantly going on. Just look at MMA, just see maybe if any of the ones that I really like have changed at all. Buckley's still at 36.5. 𝗕𝘂𝘆 is still at 6 minutes, and Algeo is 12.5. Usually, if there's a number that Prize Picks puts out there and it gets hit quickly, that's when you see that number change there. But for the most part, the numbers they don't change too much. Dan Jack says stack Algeo and Hernandez.
So I was thinking that, right? Like the Carolina and the Carolina and 𝗵𝐴 fight. But also, like, given what Hernandez does in every single fight, like, say you have to stack a fight this week, you could kind of make that narrative work because Hernandez starts hot, can get takedowns. That's the way to beat Algeo. If he gets 5 takedowns or whatever, does enough halfway of the fight, second half he gets beat and finished, that's where the stack could work. And that's, like, kind of what happens in his fights. Like, second half of the fight, he's live to get finished. So I do not hate that thought process. Very, very contrarian. But I could get behind that.
I would also say, like, from a betting perspective, I know obviously you're in a state where you can place bets here. I would look at maybe the Hernandez and Algeo may win or be a decision in that one. That one will be kind of stick out to me. Joe Pfeiffer, I mean, if you can find a good number of, I want to say, I mean, I saw him the win by submission prop. I want to say it was like plus 350. That could be one that sticks out to you as well. And then I mentioned if you're looking to make some bets on Bellator, the 2 that I like the most, Sarah McMahon minus 148 against Leah McCourt. I think she should wreck Leah McCourt. Her Corrales plus 142. The three main card fights all have huge lines. You got to try to find a little bit of edge there. Maybe some of the props there. Eric says last spot on a DraftKings contest: Marata, Algeo, or Buckley. I would rank it Buckley, Marata, Algeo, but
Buckley,
Algeo, depending on what the rest of your lineup looks like, just because of what we're seeing on ownership, Algeo may be the better play to try to go with to try to get yourself up those leaderboards. I mean, that's always the thing when I'm in these big GPPs. It's like, how can I be unique to go and take these contests down?
Yeah, just a couple like things to add for frame and stature. 𝗵𝐴's like 5'7" and Carolina's 5'3". Bill Algeo's pretty long compared to Alexander Hernandez. And Buckley is shorter but significantly more muscle over Alex Morono. So half of that doesn't mean anything, but it's just something to note.
Yeah, I mean, in the main event, I will say one of my takeaways from the weigh-ins was I was like, oof. One guy looks like he didn't cut a lot of weight in Bobby Green, where the other guy looks like he cut a ton of weight to make 55.
Dawson's huge, bro. He's huge. He's a big guy.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, sometimes it can be good to be at a smaller gym, but then sometimes it is good to go to that bigger gym and be around a lot of bodies. And you've seen that with Grant Dawson. I mean, I think the question mark is, and we haven't seen this issue with him in terms of the cardio, is if somehow this fight does get to the 4th or 5th round. But also, like you say, the last thing you don't want if you're rostering Grant Dawson is a 3rd round finish.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the fear. I'm excited for the main event. I think that the draw that's around Grant Dawson is the only thing making you hesitate on getting a little bit more bullish on him. And, that's MMA, man. That stuff happens. And, now he's a part of a big gym who's going to try to limit his mistakes as much as possible.
Of course, we're just moments away here from hitting lock, so we'll see what the ownership ultimately is on some of these fighters. Of course, we will be back here next week. That is the Barboza and Sadiq Youssef card?
I have no idea.
Did I just pull that one out? Did I just pull that one out of my ass?
Don't ask me. I have no idea.
Well, I know
my boy 𝗕𝗄𝗆's fighting soon, so I'm excited.
Yeah, that's an afternoon card on October 21st. Which is the pay-per-view. By the way, I'll give you a little hint. If you like to go out and watch UFC pay-per-views, you might want to ask your favorite watering hole if they have ESPN Plus for business, because that is how, from the commercial side of it, we're getting the next pay-per-view. Because it's an afternoon card. The next card, it is Sadiq Youssef and Edson Barboza next week.
Wow, good job, Jason.
And by the way, this is really the first time I've been looking at that card. Kind of interesting matchmaking here. Adrian Yanez versus Jonathan Martinez. It's a pick'em fight right now.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
All right, so look, I'll just tell you real quick what my ownership is. 𝗕𝗂𝗆𝗵𝗵𝗵 37, Algeo 33. Not in all my contests, just in my favorite lineup. Belbita 26, 𝗵𝐸𝐬𝐽 23, Buckley 31, De La Rosa 26. So does look like a good amount of people still got the Algeo at 33%. And that's in the big tournament.
I mean, I looked at the Fight HQ contest. Apparently everyone has following your lead on Montana De La Rosa and 50% in the Fight HQ contest.
Damn. Followed up with Bill Algeo 45%.
5 for 58% in our contest.
Cool.
So, but as always, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Of course, if you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that. That really does help us out a lot. We appreciate the super chats that came in as well. Of course, be sure to join our Discord channel, as we're always in there trying to talk the fight game, anything going on, and maybe sometimes I might have a little nugget or two I can throw in there.
Oh, I wanted to tell you, I did some rainmakers today.
Okay.
So I have no idea how the hell it works, but I did 2 MMA lineups with my rainmakers cards. So I'm excited to see what the hell happens.
Yeah, I'm interested to kind of see. I threw some lineups in the captain contest. I had some success with that recently, so going to try to parlay some of those winnings to see if I can take this thing down. And so we'll see. Yes, I might adjust that lineup a little bit. I got to look through that. But as always, we appreciate everyone tuning in to the Fight HQ podcast. Of course, we'll be back here next week, most likely on Thursday. But if we do have any changes, we'll let everyone know they're in the Discord channel. So we appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of Fight HQ.